Do you see I'm a little edgy?
Yeah.
I spend like pretty much 90% of my waking hours tweeting hatred towards this administration.
Yeah, you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Remember when Trump said he was, like, really smart? Well, Rosie O'Donnell just dragged him so hard she practically needed a U-Haul. She called him the human embodiment of a rejected Cheeto right on national TV. But it wasn't just Rosie bringing the heat. Seth Meyers roasted Trump's marriage so savagely that the former president completely lost it. He suggested Melania has a secret burner phone labeled "Do Not Answer Donald." And Trump's reaction proves Meyers might have hit too close to home. So how did this epic battle of wits begin? Picture this. It's 2006, and Donald Trump was playing Mr. Moral Authority despite his own messy love life. The whole thing kicked off when Miss USA Tara Conner got caught up in a partying scandal. You know, the usual cocktail of underage drinking and alleged cocaine use. Nothing says pageant queen like a night out in New York's club scene. Instead of just firing her, Trump decided to hold a press conference where he positioned himself as some kind of forgiveness guru.
Girl, Tara Conner, how old is she? 21. She went out and she was partying, so he held a press conference to announce whether or not she was going to retain.
There he was, the man with multiple marriages and well-documented affairs, suddenly acting like he was the pope of the pageant world. "I've always been a believer in second chances," he declared, as if he was doing some noble deed by letting the pretty blonde keep her crown.
Brilliant! And there he is, hair looping, going, everyone deserves a second chance, and I'm gonna give her a second.
Rosie O'Donnell, who was co-hosting The View at the time, watched this spectacle and basically said what we were all thinking. On December 20th, she absolutely demolished Trump on national television. Left the first wife, had an affair. Left the second wife, had an affair. Had kids both times. But he's the moral compass for 20-year-olds in America, she said, making air quotes around her head that sent the audience into fits of laughter. But Rosie wasn't done there. She went full comedy roast mode, mocking his ridiculous comb-over, doing an impression of his voice that had the audience howling, and then delivered the knockout punch by calling him a snake oil salesman. Then she did something that made Trump absolutely lose his mind. She flipped her hair to one side to imitate his bizarre hairstyle.
Tara O'Connor, I believe her name was, a young Irish lass who was Junior Miss Trump Atlantic City pageant sexist winner.
The studio audience went wild. Trump's reaction? Pure meltdown mode. The man couldn't handle being mocked by a woman on daytime television. He immediately called into every show that would have him. Entertainment Tonight, Extra, The Insider. Basically any program where he could vent his rage. He called Rosie a real loser and disgusting both inside and out. My personal favorite was when he told People magazine, "Rosie's a very unattractive person, both inside and out. She's a slob." This wasn't just some celebrity drama. It was the first time America got to see how easily Trump could be rattled by a woman who wasn't afraid of him.
Rosie's show is a complete and total disaster.
Here was a supposed billionaire businessman, completely unhinged because a comedian made fun of his hair. The more Trump ranted about Rosie, calling her "my nice fat little Rosie" and threatening to sue her, the more obvious it became that she was living rent-free in his head. Trump took his obsession to bizarre new heights when he sent Rosie a copy of her People magazine cover with a note scrawled across it saying, "You're a fat pig." Real presidential behavior there, Donald. He even bragged about this childish stunt during an interview with Larry King, seeming to think it made him look tough rather than pathetically insecure. The feud revealed something important about Trump's character. He simply cannot handle being mocked, especially by a woman. While most public figures know how to laugh off criticism or respond with a bit of humor, Trump goes nuclear at the slightest provocation. It's like watching a toddler who's been told he can't have ice cream before dinner. What exactly did Rosie say that made Trump lose his mind so completely? Beyond the hair jokes and moral hypocrisy callouts, she exposed his bankruptcy history on national television. "This is not a self-made man," she told millions of viewers. "This is a man who inherited a lot of money and had to file for bankruptcy. Not once, not twice, but 4 times.
That he is bankrupt 4 times, that he got all his money from his father, and that he notoriously cheats private contractors."
She pulled back the curtain on the carefully constructed Trump mythology, pointing out that he wasn't some brilliant businessman, but rather a guy who started with daddy's money and still managed to fail repeatedly. To a man whose entire identity is built around being seen as a winner, this was the ultimate insult. The fact that these criticisms came from a strong-voiced woman who wasn't trying to please him made it all the more intolerable for Trump. While most presidential candidates spend debate night obsessing over policy details and polling numbers, Trump was busy nursing a decade-old grudge against a talk show host. In what might be the strangest presidential debate moment in modern history, Trump couldn't resist dragging Rosie O'Donnell into the spotlight, proving that personal vendettas consume his thinking even during career-defining moments.
And that is all
Simple
pretty well
facts,
documented.
Simple facts.
And so you said this on The View.
And he went bat crazy.
Yeah.
Flash forward to August 2015. Trump is standing on the debate stage in Cleveland, Ohio, looking smug in his red power tie as Fox News moderator Megyn Kelly confronts him about his history of misogyny. "You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals," Kelly points out. Before she can even finish her question, Trump raises his finger and interrupts with what he clearly thought was a comedy zinger. Only Rosie O'Donnell.
You don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
The audience erupts in laughter, but political analysts watching were picking their jaws up off the floor. Imagine that. A man seeking the highest office in the land, and his first instinct when questioned about his treatment of women is to double down on insulting a comedian who hurt his feelings a decade earlier. It's like showing up to a job interview and immediately trashing your middle school teacher who gave you a B-. What makes this moment even more bizarre is that Trump could have simply apologized or deflected. Instead, he chose to remind millions of Americans watching that he was still obsessed with a feud most people had forgotten about. Real presidential material, folks. The Cleveland debate outburst wasn't just petty, it was a warning sign. If Trump could be so easily triggered by a decade-old TV spat, how would he handle actual diplomatic challenges? Would he nuke a country because their ambassador looked at him funny?
Do you see I'm a little edgy?
Yeah.
I spend like pretty much 90% of my waking hours tweeting hatred towards this administration.
Yeah.
When asked about Trump's debate comment afterward, Rosie didn't hold back. She tweeted, "Try explaining that to you are kids," making it clear she saw through his childish behavior. To her, this wasn't just about their personal beef. It revealed Trump's deeper issues with women who dare to challenge him. The debate moment transformed what had been a celebrity feud into something with serious political implications. Suddenly, voters were watching a potential commander-in-chief whose brain was still stuck in 2006 TV drama. Political experts noted that Trump's inability to let go of personal grudges could seriously impact his ability to govern. As one commentator put it, "We're not electing a Twitter troll, we're electing someone who needs to negotiate with world leaders." Rather than backing down after the debate backlash, Trump doubled down, continuing to take shots at O'Donnell whenever possible. Meanwhile, Rosie ramped up her opposition on social media, becoming one of his most vocal critics. She even coined the phrase that Trump was obsessed with her, joking that she was living rent-free in his head, which, given Trump's real estate background, must have been particularly irritating. What's truly remarkable is how Trump managed to turn what should have been a serious discussion about his attitudes toward women into yet another chapter of his Rosie obsession.
I've known Rosie for a long time. I've always felt to myself, she's a degenerate. She shouldn't.
It wasn't just a gaffe. It was a revealing glimpse into how Trump's mind works. Instead of addressing legitimate concerns about his character, he defaulted to a decade-old comedy feud. The debate wasn't the last time Trump would bring up Rosie either. Throughout his campaign and presidency, he continued referencing her, like a kid who can't stop talking about the bully who stole his lunch money in 3rd grade.
Because Donald Trump has been mad at you for a very long time.
Over a decade, Seth.
Over a decade.
Yes.
While most politicians move on from criticism, Trump's grudges apparently have their own permanent residence in his psyche, complete with a swimming pool and tennis court. Perhaps the most telling aspect of the debate incident was how it showcased Trump's priorities. When given the chance to address serious concerns about his character on a national stage, his immediate reflex wasn't to reassure voters about his qualifications or vision for America. It was to get in another jab at Rosie O'Donnell. Policy, governance, national security? Nah, settling scores with TV personalities is where it's at. While Rosie was battling Trump on daytime TV, another comedian was sharpening his knives for an attack that would leave Trump seething in public with nowhere to hide. What happens when a thin-skinned billionaire with presidential aspirations gets trapped at a dinner where he becomes the main course? That's exactly what went down at the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner, a night that some political experts believe literally changed the course of American history. Picture the scene. It's April 30th, 2011, and Donald Trump is sitting in a tuxedo at the Washington Hilton, surrounded by journalists, politicians, and celebrities. Obama is president, Trump is just a reality TV star with a bad haircut, and Seth Meyers is about to destroy him in front of Washington's elite. Trump wasn't there by accident. He'd been floating the idea of running for president and had become the unofficial spokesman for the birther movement, that racist conspiracy theory claiming Obama wasn't born in America. Just days before the dinner, Obama had released his long-form birth certificate to shut these rumors down. But instead of backing off, Trump took credit for forcing the president to release it. He even showed up to this dinner thinking he'd be celebrated as some kind of political detective. Boy, was he wrong. First, President Obama took his turn at the mic and absolutely demolished Trump. No one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter, like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac? The room erupted in laughter while cameras caught Trump sitting there, lips pressed together, looking like someone had just told him his tower was actually a medium-sized building. But Obama was just the opening act. When Seth Meyers took the stage, he delivered a comedy execution so brutal that Trump's face turned redder than his signature tie. Donald Trump has been saying he'll run for president as a Republican. Meyers deadpanned, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
There's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
The audience howled while Trump sat there, frozen in humiliation. Meyers wasn't done. He aimed right at Trump's bizarre obsession with Obama's birth certificate. Trump says he has a great relationship with the blacks. Though, unless the blacks are a family of white people, I bet he's mistaken.
Donald Trump said recently he has a great relationship with the blacks, though unless the blacks are a family of white people, I bet he's mistaken.
Each joke landed like a precision missile strike on Trump's ego, and unlike his Twitter feuds, he couldn't hit back or walk away. What made this roasting session particularly brutal was that Trump had to endure it in real time, surrounded by people laughing at him. For a man obsessed with his public image, this was torture. No Fox and Friends to call into the next morning, no rally crowd to boost his ego, no Twitter to fire back angry 3 a.m. tweets. Just Trump sitting there, taking punch after punch. Journalists who were present that night described Trump's reaction as seething. According to multiple accounts, he barely touched his dinner and didn't laugh once. Former White House staff members later revealed that Trump left the event early, furious and humiliated.
Donald Trump's a good person. I'd even go so far as to say he's a bad person. Now, in my defense, I'm only basing that on everything I've ever been taught about what makes someone good or bad.
The most fascinating theory about this night is what some political analysts call the humiliation theory. The idea that this public embarrassment was so traumatic for Trump that it fundamentally changed his political ambitions. Trump had floated running for president before, but after being laughed at by the Washington elite, some believe he became dead set on winning the presidency just to get revenge. As Adam Gopnik of The New Yorker later wrote, Trump's humiliation was as absolute and as visible as any I have ever seen. Omarosa Manigault Newman, who worked with Trump on The Apprentice before joining his White House staff, claimed in her book that it was that night that he decided to run for president. I'm convinced that it was. Whether or not the dinner directly led to Trump's 2016 run, it certainly showcased his extraordinary sensitivity to criticism and mockery, especially when delivered by someone he couldn't easily dismiss. Seth Meyers had found Trump's kryptonite, public ridicule with no escape route. While Trump can laugh off jokes about his politics, his hair, and even his tiny hands, there's one comedy target that sends him into absolute meltdown mode. Comedians like Rosie and Seth discovered his ultimate weak spot isn't his ego. It's those awkward moments when cameras catch Melania looking like she'd rather be anywhere else but by his side. When Rosie O'Donnell took aim at the Trump marriage, she didn't need to invent material. After Trump's election victory, she imagined Melania's internal monologue with a devastated "Are you happy now?" delivered with the kind of contempt usually reserved for someone who just crashed the family car. The joke landed because viewers had already noticed Melania's expressions at the inauguration. That infamous smile that instantly collapsed into a grimace the moment Trump turned away. Seth Meyers has been equally merciless about the Trump marriage on his late-night show. His writer's room struck comedy gold when they joked that Melania has a secret escape tunnel at Mar-a-Lago and keeps a burner phone labeled "Do Not Answer Donald" hidden in her purse. These punchlines work precisely because they play on what the public has observed in countless uncomfortable public interactions between the couple. Remember that viral hand-swatting incident in Israel? As Trump reached for Melania's hand during an official visit, she slapped it away like he was trying to steal her phone. The moment spawned thousands of memes and gave comedians like Rosie and Seth weeks of material. Rosie quipped that Melania's hand-swatting technique showed more emotion than we've seen from her in years. What's fascinating is how these marriage jokes trigger Trump in ways that criticism of his policies never does. When Seth Meyers joked that Melania's smile around Trump looks like the grimace you make when the dentist asks you a question while his hands are in your mouth. Trump reportedly went on a 30-minute rant to staffers about unfair treatment. Yet when critics attacked his border policy or tax cuts, he'd typically just fire off a quick tweet and move on. The real punch in these jokes comes from the visual evidence that supports them. There's the infamous New York Times Square billboard showing Melania looking glamorous alongside the slogan, "The only wall I want to build is between me and Donald." While the billboard was created by critics, not Melania herself, it resonated because it played on the visible tension we've all witnessed. Rosie's observation that Melania looks like she's about to crack iPhone screens with how angry she looks all the time transforms what Trump's team tries to present as loving photo ops into comedy fodder. At a dinner event in 2018, cameras caught Melania's face transitioning from a forced smile to what can only be described as existential dread when Trump glanced away. A moment Rosie described as, looking like someone who just remembered she left the gas on in another country. What gives these jokes their power isn't just the humor, it's the uncomfortable truth they expose. Trump has carefully crafted his image as an alpha male with a trophy wife who adores him, but comedians merely need to roll footage of actual interactions to undermine this narrative. No scripted jokes could be as damaging as the real clips of Melania physically recoiling when Trump attempts affection. The comedians haven't needed to dig deep for material. Public events provide an endless supply of awkward moments, like when Melania wore that infamous "I really don't care, do you?" jacket while visiting migrant children, prompting Seth to joke. That's the same message she whispers to herself before entering any room with Trump. Trump's sensitivity about his marriage might seem surprising for a man who brushes off criticism about serious political matters. But as both Rosie and Seth recognized, his relationship with Melania is central to his carefully constructed public image. Every joke chips away at the facade, revealing the uncomfortable reality that millions of Americans can see with their own eyes.